when they talk about magnesium, right, they say it's 300 metabolic processes, biological processes are dependent on magnesium, but everything is dependent on NAD plus. Literally everything. If you go to the list on
Yeah.
Wikipedia, they tried to index that. It's over 10,000 enzymes that are dependent on NAD plus or NADP or NADPH, right? So people have no understanding how far this simple supplementation protocol goes. Yeah, I have the same thing. If you do consultations and the blood work parameters are actually quite good, but the symptoms don't really match that, it's either a nicotine adenine dinucleotide deficiency, right, or an antioxidant
Yeah.
deficiency, or something chronic like a mold toxicity or Lyme's disease, or some of these issues, celiacs, for example, something underlying that you don't really see right away, but it's better just to go through the ringer and spend the money to get that
Yeah.
diagnosed, and then you can take affirmative action, and more often than not, you can fix it in a week once you know what's
Yeah.
actually going on. Yeah.
Yeah. The
So
root cause.
I saw him posting your Instagram about hair loss and nicotinamide
Yeah.
adenine dinucleotide, and I think you and me are the only two who pieced it together. No, I'm serious, because I made
I was
it.
going to say we've got the.
Yeah, I think I made a video about like post-Finasteride syndrome and how to kind of mitigate it and upregulate the 5-alpha reductase enzymes type 1, 2, and 3 with nicotinamide mononucleotide or nicotinamide riboside supplementation, because these enzymatic reactions are dependent on nicotinamide
Yeah.
adenine dinucleotide. And look at the comment section, and it was on your post as well, right? People that come back later to report like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that fucking fixed it. It's so funny, right, that you and me kind of piece that together. So give me your insights. I want to know. I'll fill in afterwards.
So with me, obviously, we're starting to see a lot of like what sort of led me down this rabbit hole was a consult on post-Roaccutane syndrome, which is very sort of like, I guess, non-benign to 5-alpha reductase and also to aromatase inhibitor syndromes. And it was the whole thing of I took Roaccutane and now I have zero libido. And so they're like, what's going on here from a mechanistic perspective? And so then when you go down that rabbit hole, you see retinoids interfering with 5-alpha reductase activity and slowing 5-alpha reductase down completely. And then the next step from that was, well, let's look at the mechanism. I already knew sort of the mechanism of 5-alpha reductase and how it reduces testosterone, but let's actually look and piece how the enzyme works to make DHT. And you see that it needs the NAD cofactor with FMN, like aromatase. And if it doesn't have NAD, the enzyme's not going to work. So to me, it just was sort of logic of, if the enzyme's not working, let's give it the substrate that it needs. And then the argument is sort of like, oh, I've taken supplements before and it didn't improve. And it's sort of like, well, if there's that much oxidative stress in the body, like NAD is needed by like glucose 6-phosphate metabolism. Like if there's that much oxidative stress and you take like 500 milligrams of NAD or the ribosolamide version or NMN, whatever way you want to take, or even flush niacin, do you really think that small amount of NAD you make from taking a supplement is going to magically fix like a global enzyme deficiency?
No,
And it's
right.
like,
And it takes a while. I mean, when they talk about magnesium, right, they say it's the 300 metabolic processes, biological processes are dependent on magnesium, but everything is dependent on NAD plus. Literally everything. If you go to the list on Wikipedia, they tried to index that. It's over 10,000 enzymes that are dependent on NAD plus or NADP or NADPH, right? The phosphate, whether that's oxidized or not oxidized. So people have no understanding how far this simple supplementation protocol goes. And I noticed it because I started supplementing with NAD plus intravenously for the last 1.5 years. And everything has improved, right? That's why it's an anti-aging drug, because NAD plus levels already go down as you age. And guess what? When you take steroids, your NAD plus requirement goes up substantially, just like your glutathione requirement goes up substantially, because the oxidative stress and the enzymatic reactions, and I think a lot of people that experience post-finasteride syndrome or have issues with the aromatase enzymes, right? Because of the upregulation that comes along with NAD plus deficiency, right? Now your body starts to
Yeah.
produce more aromatase enzymes to kind of offset that, because half of them are not even working,
Working.
right? And
Yeah.
then suddenly, your NAD plus levels go up, and guess what? Aromatase galore. Your estradiol levels just shoot up.
Sure. And it was just sort of like, when we're figuring out complex biology, I can understand conventional medicine's viewpoint on post-finasteride syndrome is that it's psychosomatic. And there's
Yeah.
you can't argue that it's not psychosomatic in some instance, in that if you sort of hyper focus on having no libido, you're going to have no libido. You're going to have no sexual confidence. So there is a level of
true.
psychosomatism that plays into the syndrome, but there is a biochemical answer to the syndrome also, as opposed to telling someone just man up, like, which is sort of some of the advice that's given of like, oh, I'll go see a clinical psychiatrist, and a clinical psychiatrist is prescribing antidepressants for your low
Makes it even
libido
worse.
because you're depressed.
Makes it even worse.
Exactly. So you're being funneled. You're being funneled into a classical medical system, not to get down that avenue. But it's sort of like, we can put our thinking caps on here as biochemists or an interest in biology, and actually figure out what's gone wrong in response to either Accutane, finasteride, aromatase inhibitors, where they've used the third class generation aromatase inhibitors, and look at how you're going to keep that body happy and supported. And I mean, you then have to sort of look at, when you have people who have these things, we're starting to even see, adaptogenic mushrooms are the sort of next thing that's under fire for causing mental instability. And I'm not arguing that adaptogenic mushrooms don't cause issues, because to be honest, if you look at half the adaptogens that people take every day, we have no clue how they work biochemically. You just see, take ashwagandha. Some people, we see their adrenal output increase, and certain people we see a decrease, and we see cortisol drop. So we don't actually understand how, for example, like ashwagandha, the withanolides, how they actually work biologically, except take it and see how you feel tends to be what my approach is with adaptogens, because it's different for each different person.
Right. And then in once in a while, blue moon, you get somebody who experienced anhedonia and then goes on a rampage online. That it's 100% the ashwagandha root extract's fault, but so many things can cause anhedonia or libido issues, and in many cases just multifactorial. Of course, you can pinpoint at one thing because that maybe pushed you over the edge, right? You were already at 99% bad, and now you went to 101%, and now everything is kind of broken. And it might have been the lion's mane or the ashwagandha root or the finasteride, for that matter. Right? But in many cases, there's an underlying health condition that is not diagnosed because you're deficient in so many things, the micronutrients, which contribute to enzymatic reactions. And it's usually more problematic. But I really liked that you made that Instagram post that came to the same conclusion as my video, because I know that it can save so many people so many problems if they just look at these underlying things and just go back to the basics of the biology. I think, a lot of people can save themselves a world of pain, but they have to spend a little bit of extra money on the NMN or the NAD+, because it's not cheap.